Hello, friends. Mali Panpadith here, CEO of the SOAR Community Network and co-founder of the SOAR Community Nebula. As you know by now, hopefully you know by now, our goal this year is to feature 1,000 champions of change and community builders. And I'm delighted today to bring a friend of mine on here, Dana Hutson. Thank you, Dana, so much for being a part of our initiative.
Thank you, Molly, for having me this morning.
Course. Will you please reintroduce yourself to our community now and let us know more about the work that you're currently doing in the world?
Sure. So my name is Dana Hutson. I've known Molly now for a couple years, and I'm delighted and honored to be a part of this network and this community. I am the founder and president of Cancer Champions. We are a small healthcare consultancy boutique helping people find clarity in the confusion and the panic of a cancer diagnosis. So I provide private medical navigation for families and individuals all across the country who are facing a very disruptive diagnosis.
So I'm going to throw this question in there. Why is this yours to do, Dana? What was the motivation? What is the motivation, inspiration? Why did you choose this particular path as your mission and your work?
That's a good question. It sort of chose me. I have always been interested in science and medicine and had a career in biopharmaceuticals for decades, working with cancer molecules and cancer patients and advocacy. And 3 years ago, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and it gave me an entirely new perspective on the journey from a caregiver's perspective, from a daughter's perspective. And it became very clear to me that there was a necessary gap for families and individuals with little healthcare literacy to have somebody come alongside to help them find clarity and a path forward in a very disruptive, scary situation. So I left my job at Genentech, which is a large biotech company in South San Francisco, and started Cancer Champions just a little over 2 years ago.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not share that you were also very helpful during a very vulnerable time in our family's history, a recent history with my sister being diagnosed and now thankfully in remission. It was really a wonderful time to spend with someone who had just launched something so powerful, meeting me at a time in a place where our family needed a little guidance and support. And sometimes you don't even know how little or how big your actions are. And just the time that you took with me and the fact that you shared, hey, what can I do? How can I support? Here are some resources. It made all the difference in the world. So I just wanted to say an extra thank you for that, Dana. What you're doing is very, very needed and important and spiritually very grounding for families. So thank you so much for that. So my next question to you is, when you think of a leader or a person or experiences, whatever it is that you wish to share around who has showed you love and compassion and guided you in life and helped you to shift who you are or a way of thinking in such a profound way that leads your life today?
That's such a big question, Molly. And I really gave this some deep consideration when I was thinking about this. And I feel comfortable enough to share with you and with this community that I could not come up with a earthly being. I, like many of us, made some very poor, selfish decisions in my past life, as in my youth. And I can't think of anyone who has shown me more compassion and more grace and more love and more empathy than Jesus. My life's trajectory absolutely changed from knowing him in a more personal way and really embracing and accepting the love, the grace, the compassion that he provided me. And so that's that's the person that has most affected and changed the trajectory of my life.
Thank you so much for sharing that. How powerful and how beautiful. Thank you, Dana. When you think of a community builder, a champion of change, and now we'll come down to the earthly, human realm of those in your life that you spend a lot of time with, because you are a champion of change. That's why you're being interviewed today. What are some of the attributes that you either admire or have witnessed that are consistent over and over again?
It is funny how the consistency comes up. Over the people that I'm thinking of, compassion, innovation, creativity, daring, just having the grit to step out and do something, selflessness. Those are some of the things that I feel like the people that I really admire and emulate. Those are the characteristics that come to mind.
It's incredible doing so many of these interviews now, how often grit or bravery or courage come up, and also creativity and innovation and visionary, right? So it's really powerful to start seeing kind of the thread of the personalities or the attributes that are out there in our world, helping to really activate some big movements.
Yes.
And to also be learning from these folks as well, to also listen and hear these interviews and think to yourselves or think to myself, I'm learning a lot as well. What is it that I'm holding back in terms of my own courage, my own bravery? How am I, what am I hiding? What am I hiding from that I can put forth in a beautiful way because others are doing it as well? So I really appreciate that this is such an important question, because there's so many attributes that are consistent, but there are so many attributes that may still be hidden inside of us that we're not going out there and sharing with the world.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's talk about causes or movements or initiatives that really matter to you, that you put your heart, your love, your energy, your gifts and talents to help advance. So do you want to share some of those causes or movements?
I would love to. So there are three that I really have attached myself to.
Okay.
The first one is the International Justice Mission. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Okay, Gary Haugen was an attorney at the Department of Justice and left back in 1999 to start this organization. It's a nonprofit organization that's located here in Arlington, but it has global impact. Their mission is to, I wanted to write it down because I wanted to make sure that they are bringing justice to parts of the world where people are still in bondage to human slavery and trafficking. And he's taking all of his gifts and talents as an attorney and has built this amazing team to not go in and be the great white horse and save the day, and here's the United States, and we're here to save the day, but to go in and work with local justice departments, local law enforcement to help rescue women and children and men that are being enslaved because of poverty and injustice. They rescue, they restore, and then they build up the justice systems within these countries. And I have been working with them in various different levels over the course of the past, I'd say, 5 years. It's an amazing organization, and it's something that we have more slavery now in the world than we had back in our horrible history here in the United States. So, and it's not something that is readily known. We don't recognize it here in the West, even though it's happening here in the United States. So that's one organization. And I've partnered with them on several ways. I've fundraised for them. They have a big intercessory prayer meeting every year where you go and you just, you pray for everything that's happening all around the world, because they're in some very dangerous spaces but the work that they do is amazing. So that's one. Another one is it has a global flair. It's located in India, but it has roots here in the United States with a friend of mine. Her family is from Bangalore, India. And the organization is Sahasara Deepika Foundation for Education. It's a family foundation. They're a nonprofit, and their life's mission is to break the cycle of poverty for girls in Bangalore, India. As many of you probably know, as you know, Molly, the value of an education is not necessarily awarded to women in a lot of parts of the world. And in girls, it's just, in India, it's not a priority. Their brothers get to go to school. They don't always get to go to school. And the way out of poverty is education. And so Sarva and her family have started this foundation back in the 90s, where there is a residential campus outside of Bangalore where they house and educate and do outreach for impoverished girls in Bangalore. And I'm on that board. I've been on their board for almost 10 years. I've visited the girls. I've lent just my marketing and business skill sets to various fundraising events and things that they do there. But that is another woman who had a vision. Sarva's mother had a vision and grew up without an education, was denied an education in Bangalore, came to the United States with her husband. They were very successful here in the United States. He also came from a very impoverished family. And in their retirement, in their 70s, they shut everything down here and moved back to Bangalore and started this organization and this school. And they're running it to this day. He's going to be 90, and they're running it to this day. They have over 70 girls, and it's an amazing venture. They're very inspirational, very inspirational. So that's another organization that I feel very passionate about. And the last one is here right in DC, and it's called Samaritan Ministry of Greater Washington. And this is an organization that helps the chronically homeless right here in our own community, as well as those that are sort of living on just the edges of poverty and homelessness. It's an organization that does job development training and job placement, and just comes alongside people that are feeling marginalized and just left out. And I've been on their board, I've been on their development committee, and I've worked with the participants in putting plans together in place for their life to see that no matter where you are in life, there's a plan and a purpose for your life, and help them to see the value of who they are as individuals and human beings, and then to help them put a strategy in place to be able to realize their goals and objectives. So that's a local organization here in DC.
So
those are the three.
Just three?
There's more, but those are the three that
I'm kidding. That's a lot that you're doing to give of your time and your energy to. And I also get goosebumps when you were talking about the organizations that were also global, because we do forget that there's a need here locally, and there's also this ripple effect of what happens in the world with our decisions, with our policies, or with our inaction, right? I mean, there's these things happening with or without us even aware of doing anything or nothing, or our contributions to it possibly, and not even realizing that.
So Molly, this was an eye-opening thing when I started working with IJM, the International Justice Mission. So, pornography is just rampant in our country, right? It's a problem here in the United States and in the civilized, developed world, whatever you want to call us. And the majority of these children and people that are being trafficked or that are being held as slaves are being held as sex slaves, and they don't, it's all online. So they're locked in a room somewhere, and it's all, and it could be somebody here in the United States on their computer contributing to the trauma and the horrific things that are happening. So you're absolutely right. It's a ripple. It's a ripple.
Well, thank you for shedding light onto those organizations so that our community, if we so wish, whatever resonates with all of our hearts to help support, advance these movements forward. This is the importance of talking about community builders and talking about champions of change that may not even have the limelight or have thousands or hundreds or whatever of followers, right? These are everyday folks who are putting their time and energy into causes that some of us have never even heard of. Because they do exist for a reason. There's some big problems for all of us to solve in the world. So it comes down to what's mine to do, what's ours to do, and then where do we want to put our resources and our energy.
Right.
So the next question that I have for you as we move this along is, when things have been rough and tough and it hasn't always been smooth as all of our lives go, is there a philosophy or a quote or perhaps scripture that really helps you to come back to center and advance you and move you forward?
Of course there is. The verse that I fall back on over and over and over is in Jeremiah. It's in the book of Jeremiah in the Bible, and it's in chapter 29, it's verse 11. And it is, I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to give you a hope and a future, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. And I use that, Molly, not just for my own self. Like, I know there's a plan for my own self, but when I'm working with participants down in DC, like, that promise is as much for me as it is for them. It's as much for me as it is for the girl that's locked in the room in the Philippines. It's as much for me as it is for the little girl in Bangalore who is trying to get an education and break herself out of poverty. There's a plan and a purpose for all of us. And it's to prosper us and to give us a hope and a future. And when I say prosper, I don't necessarily mean monetary, right? But it's for a life of joy and abundance and worth and value. We are on this earth for a reason. We are not here just to, what I believe, to just go through life randomly with really no purpose. There's a purpose and there's a plan. And that is my centering verse.
Beautiful. What would a better world look like through your eyes, Dana?
Gosh, Molly, like if all of these organizations that I'm busy working with were not necessary, that would look awesome.
That would look awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can all just party.
Joy and abundance.
Joy.
I think if all of us could just see past differences, if we could see past skin colors, if we could see past circumstances and just realize that we are all created for a reason and a purpose, and my value is not any greater than anybody else's. And if I could just look at other people all the time and see the value they bring to my life. What is the abundance that you are bringing into my life that I would not have had if I had not met you? If we would all sort of face each other that way, wow, like, wouldn't that look like that would just be amazing.
Yeah. Well, I just love your beautiful heart.
Well, I love yours.
What can our community do to support you? Can you share one or two things, actions that we can take to help you and the causes that matter to you?
So, two. One, for me as a business, I'll start there. For me as a business, in supporting Cancer Champions, you are supporting someone who is going through a very disruptive, very scary time. So just by telling people that we're out there, if you come across somebody who has been diagnosed with the cancer diagnosis and you just don't know what to do to help them, some of the best things you can do to help them is give them me. Give them me let me come in and try to help them. That's one thing. That's me personally, because then that helps me through my business help all these other organizations that I'm doing. I'm not in business for my own self. I'm in business so I can give generously to these other organizations. The second thing I would do is just to take a few minutes and familiarize yourself with IJM and with Sahasara Deepika, and with Samaritan Ministry, and if any of them resonate with you, to support them in any way that you can.
That's great. Well, we'll include all those links so people can learn about the organizations and your business as well. I really appreciate you, Dana, for your time. I appreciate, again, your heart, the work that you're doing. It's so needed. And I hope that our audience has benefited in many ways from hearing you share your insights today.
Molly, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everything that you are doing. You are one of my inspirations as well. I just thought that would be a little weird for me to say that to you on your own interview. But you are a precious, precious spirit, and you are doing so much for the community of change, and we just admire you. I admire you.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel very blessed. I feel honored, but I also feel called to do this. It's been many years in the making, and I had to be in a position where I was ready, and I had the human capacity to hold a space for all these beautiful souls to share and be the conduit, be the catalyst. And I'm not alone anymore. I have my husband. I have the SOAR Community Network. I now have Nebula. And so it's really ours to do together. The time has come, and we're all called to move in this direction of unity and collaboration and commitment to serve all of us and raise all of our greater goods, because we can't do this by ourselves. The impact that we have together is so much more powerful than trying to do it alone, and we really can't do it alone anymore. There's just not enough time. Right. There's not enough resources to try and do this by ourselves. So again, I value you so much. I thank you for being a part of our community, and also for doing all this beautiful work at home and globally. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Molly.
You're welcome. For those that are watching, thank you so very much. Please remember to nominate yourself. We really know that you are special, you are valued, you are doing valuable things. It's easy for us to nominate other people. It's not always easy to nominate ourselves, and I'm asking you to nominate yourself. Please, you have permission to do so. Mm-hmm. And you also can nominate someone else in the community that's making a huge difference. Please visit us at nebula.soarcommunitynetwork.com. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you very, very soon.